We picture our early ancestors running wild under open skies, completely free of modern laws, bosses, or police. The reality is exactly the opposite. Early humans actually operated under some of the tightest, most restrictive social rules in human history. Picture a 17-year-old hunter. He's been tracking a massive animal for 2 days. He finally makes the kill, drags the heavy carcass back to camp, and drops it in the firelight, expecting cheers. Instead of celebrating, an elder leans over, pokes the meat, and calls it skinny. Someone asks if the animal died of old age on the way there. The whole camp openly mocks him. They aren't bullying him. They are enforcing an ancient survival code made up of 10 strict rules, and breaking even one of them could get a man killed. The first rule, the animal you killed was never yours. Among groups like the Juhansi, the meat belonged to the person who owned the arrow. Arrows were constantly traded. So a healthy hunter might make the kill, but the meat belonged to an old woman or a man with a bad hip who had made the weapon. The second rule was a deliberate weapon against pride. When a hunter brought in food, the group was required to complain about it. They called it insulting the meat, to cool his heart and stop him from thinking the rest of the camp were his servants. This chart shows how that economic logic worked. The arrow rule scrambled the connection between skill and reward. It forced large kills to be divided evenly among the group. That leveling applied to everything you owned. Objects moved constantly, leaving behind permanent obligations. In a hot climate with no money and no way to store food, hoarding physical objects was useless. A person's only real insurance policy was the network of people who owed them. This system only worked because nobody had a private life. In an ancient camp, you slept, argued, and grieved within earshot of 30 other people. Gossip was a real-time justice system, updating everyone's reputation continuously. Even your children belonged to the public. Within hours of birth, a newborn was passed around, held and nursed by multiple different women. The modern nuclear family did not exist. A human infant is helpless for years. One mother walking miles a day to gather food simply cannot afford the calories to carry and feed 2 dependent children at once. Childcare had to be a mandatory group burden, or the child wouldn't survive. That same cold arithmetic dictated who you married. Parents arranged marriages for their children, often before they could speak. A marriage tied your family to another camp, days away, securing a place you could go when your own water hole dried up. Personal independence was a fatal liability. The group commandeered your daily life, your partner, and your child, because keeping the entire web intact was the only way any individual survived a bad season. If you brought value to that web, they kept you alive. We've found remains of Neanderthals who were blind, one-armed, and limping, whose bones show years of healing. The group protected and fed them because an old, injured man holds decades of knowledge about where to find water. They were walking libraries. But what happened if someone in the web became a threat? If a man started giving orders or acting like a tyrant, the camp used their ultimate political tool. They simply packed up and walked away. Without an audience or a group to feed him, the bully was left completely powerless. For violent repeat offenders who followed the camp and wouldn't stop, the group made a collective decision to execute them. To prevent a multi-generational blood feud, the killing was usually carried out by the offender's own brother or son. The group's custody over you didn't end at death. In an English cave, researchers found human skulls carefully shaped into bowls by their own people. In many ancient cultures, bodies were buried under the floorboards or kept at the table. Death was a change of form. The dead stayed with the living. From the moment you were born until long after your flesh was gone, the group claimed absolute sovereignty over your existence. Mocking a hunter's kill and sharing a newborn infant might look like unrelated customs, but they both enforce the same core law. Absolute equality is mandatory. This system served as a biological defense against dictatorship. By crushing status early and often, the group ensured that no single leader could ever hoard enough power to put the collective at risk. Because this code was a requirement for survival for so long, it left a permanent mark on our biology. We see it surface in modern psychological experiments like the ultimatum game. A researcher hands a stranger $100 and tells them to offer you a split. The stranger keeps $95 and offers you $5. Logically, $5 is better than nothing. But most people reject the offer and choose to walk away with zero. They willingly sacrifice their own gain just to ensure the greedy stranger is punished. We sleep behind locked doors and choose our own partners, but that ancient survival code still dictates our behavior. When someone takes more than their share, something old sits up inside us and refuses.